Bringing you the best in the pop groups around today, we have a very exciting group called the Blues Magoos. And I'd like you to meet each Magoo. First we have Peppy Magoo. And next we have Mike Magoo. Next is Jeff Magoo. And then there's Ralph Magoo. And last but not least, we have Ronnie Magoo. Wait a minute, there's Tom Magoo? Hey. Hey.
Before Woodstock 69, there was a wonderful guy named Jocko Moffa, and he kicked off 1967 out at Pan Copeland's Field in Saugerties on a couple of acres, a sound out.
Sound outs. We call it the sound out.
Sound out.
Hey, you want to go to a party? I says, where? I figured it was around the corner. He says, Woodstock.
It went on for 2 or 3 summers.
65, 66, 67.
Very famous people were playing for free at Pan's Farm.
Dylan was with them.
Jimi Hendrix,
Richie Havens, Tim Hardin,
Joan Baez,
Van Morrison.
The Mothers of Invention were here, the Magoos were here, Rascals were here, Richie Havens was here, the Soft Machine, tons of people up here.
It was a happening, basically.
Unadvertised, that was the big thing. Don't tell anybody about this thing.
Every weekend, or if it wasn't every weekend, it was quite a few times in the summer.
A great big barbecue.
How many people would show up to these things?
Hundreds of people. It was always packed.
One night we had 3,000 people.
And you'd go there and you could camp out for $1. You get in, you pay $1 and you get in the door and hear some really great music.
With psychedelic light machines going and tie-dye.
And the Joshua Light Show, right? Outdoor with big bed sheets strung 2 or 3 high, about 20 feet across and 18 feet high, and projectors and stuff. Yeah, it was neat.
There was a fence going across the front of this property. This is the brand new driveway here. That wasn't there. There was like a fence going across here. And right about where that fence is, a little bit further in where the gate to the property, that property is, there was a flatbed trailer. And that's where the bands were. And you couldn't see the bands because they had built up a backdrop, so you couldn't see it from the road.
Ta-da! Is a bona fide Blues Magoos electric suit. There we go. There we go. Now see, these are all plasticine windows. All these windows here, and the cuff piping, all the vanes glowed in day glow, in black light. So we'd have all the lights go out, and the pants had piping all the way down the legs.
I remember putting a light machine up there, wiring it, helping build a stage.
Campfires and roasting hot dogs and marshmallows and listening to great rock and roll.
See the tape? The tape is here. This is the tape. This tape's been here since 1968. Why? Because when I used to sweat, the sweat used to go into the collar, and when water got into this little thing here, it used to give me 9 and 12 volt shocks in my neck. So I would be playing like this. Like that. People would have thought I was on acid, but you know, no, what was happening was I was getting 9 and 12 volt battery shocks in my neck from this damn thing.
One night, there was a cloud coming over Overlook Mountain, a dark cloud. Otherwise, the stars were out. Indians got up and did a rain dance. It rained, and the cloud kept moving, and then the Indians got up and did a rain stop dance, and the rain stopped.
I mean, it was a time where there was nobody thinking about making money. It was about coming out here, and the dollar was to cover their insurance or whatever it was. I don't even know what the dollar was for. Maybe to pay the bands. You know, they would get a little something out of it.
Because most of the time we spent was just you know, being ripped and figuring out how we were going to play in this condition.
The bands would come on. There was 2 flatbed tractor trailer beds that they used to put the bands on. That flatbed has seen more bands than you can name, than I would ever know, you know.
They tried to have an admission, but it didn't work. You really couldn't do it.
You had to go in the gate. Well, of course, everybody that lived here wouldn't sneak in.
Yeah, 60s, babe. Everybody hanging out, tie-dyes, you know, everything from Golden Gate Park to Central Park.
It was everybody loving the music and getting together.
We all had such enthusiasm for it because, you know, we all did this for nothing.
It was a spirit of love and friendship, and everybody was with each other. It was like one big family.
And everybody played and everybody laughed and everybody loved.
But we definitely had our moments. We used to run in the fields on the road with our electric suits on, next to turnpikes in like Nebraska, you know, and look in the papers the next morning and see if we saw anybody calling in a UFO, you know. I mean, we had a ball.
It was a beautiful thing, and they saw that this was the spirit of Woodstock.
The Soundouts were, a lot of people say that they were a precursor to the Woodstock
They were,
Festival.
because what happened was Michael Lang and a few other investors saw what was happening here.
Out of that grew, I'm sure, the Woodstock Festival. I'm sure that Michael Lang got his idea from that.
The link is Michael Lang. See what I mean? That's the link. All he did was make it bigger. That's all. He brought it to more people. It was the same idea. You sit around in the mud for 3 days and you camp out and you drink from the creek and whatever. It's the same thing, just add money.
Did you sell bottles of water for $6 at the Soundouts?
Actually, we tried to get 10, but... They wanted to bring this on a larger scale. So when they presented the plans to the town found out how big a larger scale they were planning, and they said, no way, you're not going to put that festival here. And so they moved to Woodburn, and then they moved to Woodridge, and anything with wood in it, and they exhausted all the wood.
As you probably know, we had started out calling it Woodstock, and so when we realized we couldn't be in Woodstock, we started to look for other towns with similar names. And so we went to Woodmere, and they didn't like the idea, and we went to Woodburn, and they didn't like the idea. And
So it is true.
actually, yeah, it is, and actually, you know, when we went to White Lake, we thought it was Wood Lake.
And then finally found this farm out in Bethel, like 50 miles away from here, where the guy was sort of naive and didn't really know what he was in for. He had no idea that all of a sudden there were going to be this many. Nobody did. It was like it was a happening, and that happening grew out of the Soundouts. It really did, because it was the spirit of the music for free. It was basically almost for free. It was $1. Who couldn't come up with $1? It was a time that will never be recaptured because of the money element. The money element wasn't there. It was about the music, and it was about a good vibe and about peace, love, and freedom, and the lyrics to Dylan's music and the lyrics to the songs that were being sung.
And look what we've got now.
What we got now is a private property. So it's all been bought and sold 20 times over, Woodstock.